You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans! Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk, and there's a lot, and I mean a lot, to get to today. I'm going to be breaking down what happened during the Baseball Hall of Fame voting yesterday. Marcell Ozuna finally signed. Zion Williamson is coming back. And I'm going to be breaking down an interesting NFL rumor. But I got to start with the Hall of Fame. And I'll start with Jeter. Then I'll move to Walker. And finally I'll tell you what my ballot would have been. With Jeter, we all knew that he was getting in, and he deserved it. There's no question about that. There's no question that he is one of, if not the greatest shortstop to ever live. And he is in the inner circle of the Hall of Fame. If we were to rank all the players that are in the Hall of Fame, Jeter would be really, really close to the top. He'd certainly be closer to the top than he would be to the bottom. But I want to focus on the guy who voted against him. Or girl. We don't know who it is. That person should get their vote stripped. That person should be banned from the BBWAA. Forget for a year like Dan Le Batard was. He should get an indefinite ban from the BBWAA, as well as getting his voting privileges stripped for life. Or hers. Again, we do not know who it is. This is just as bad, if not worse, than what Le Batard did. For those of you who may not remember, Dan Le Batard gave his vote to Deadspin. What he did was, he said to Deadspin, put up a poll on your website, and whoever gets 75% in that poll, that's who I'll vote for. The BBWAA didn't like that, and they suspended his press credentials for a year, as well as banning him from voting for the Hall of Fame. This is infinitely worse than what Le Batard did. There is no good reason whatsoever to not vote for Derek Jeter. The only good reason that there would have been to not have him go in unanimously. But Mariano broke that mold. Alright, it's done. The die has been cast. We can now have unanimous Hall of Famers. But you know what? There should have been only two. Mariano and Jeter. Not Ichiro 5 years from now. Not Mike Trout whenever he retires. Only two. Mariano and Jeter. If you want to honor the two most important members of the Yankees' modern dynasty, go ahead. If Mariano goes in unanimously, Derek Jeter has to go in unanimously. With this vote, this person has said that Mariano Rivera was more important to the Yankees dynasty than Derek Jeter was. With all due respect to Mariano Rivera, and I truly do mean with all due respect, because there is no one who loves him more than me. There is no one who respects him more than me. I met him the day before the Xbox One launched. Couldn't have been any nicer. There was a painting that was made of me and my father meeting him. We got Mariano to sign it, and it is now hanging up in our house. But with all due respect to the man, Derek Jeter was more important to the Yankees dynasty than Rivera was. If you really need me to explain that to you, then you're an idiot. You shouldn't be voting. You know how I know he was more important? Because Jeter was the captain. And I don't want to hear that pitchers can't be captains. The first captain in Yankees franchise history was Clark Griffith. He was a pitcher. And then more recently, Ron Guidry was a co-captain with Willie Randolph. Everyone who watched those teams play, and there are very few people that saw them more than me, would tell you that Derek Jeter was a better player than Mariano Rivera. There is literally no good reason to have not voted for Jeter. None. Want to tell me you don't want him going in the first year? Well, that's nonsense. That's utter nonsense, too. Rivera got in the first year. Roy Halladay, Chipper Jones, Jim Thome, Ivan Rodriguez, Ken Griffey Jr., Randy Johnson, Pedro Martinez, John Smoltz. Do I need to keep going? This person took Jeter's special day and made it all about him or herself. And because of that, that person should be stripped from voting. I don't think it's a stretch to say that this person should never be allowed to vote for the Baseball Hall of Fame again. You know, this is worse than the people who voted for J.J. Putz and Brad Penny. You know, if those guys were really nice to you, toss them a vote. Toss them a courtesy vote. They're going to be off the ballot anyway. Toss them a courtesy vote as long as it doesn't push someone off who's a deserving Hall of Famer. That's fine. You know, I really can't get upset at that. But I can get upset at Derek Jeter not getting in unanimously. Now, I'll tell you, in a perfect world, no one would get in unanimously to me. 2 years ago, if I had a vote, I would have left Mariano off. I don't think that anyone should have gotten in unanimously. What getting in unanimously means is that you were the best player in baseball history. That is what that means. That is how dominant you were. And with all due respect to Mariano, again, I feel like I'm killing the guy. I'm not. He's the best reliever in baseball history. It's not even close. Trevor Hoffman is a distant second. Mariano was not the greatest player in baseball history. He wasn't better than Griffey. He wasn't better than Seaver. He wasn't better than Jeter. He wasn't better than Nolan Ryan. You can't have Mariano be the only guy to get in unanimously. So I would have voted against him. And then I'd have voted against Jeter. I think that it should have been kept so that no one gets in unanimously. I thought that was a really nice tradition. But I don't have a vote. And the writers broke the mold. 425 people last year voted for Mariano Rivera. And there were 397 total ballots this year. Jeter got 396. Presumably, and this is just an assumption, The person that voted against Jeter had a vote last year. That means that he or she voted for Mariano Rivera. Or at the very least, just didn't vote last year. There are some people who just, for whatever reason, don't vote. And that's fine, but that person then made the conscious decision to vote against Derek Jeter this year. Why did that person vote against Jeter, but not Mariano? Now, it's possible if this person is in his or her first year, that's fine too. But you need to honor the precedent that's been set. It's okay to get in unanimously now. Have Rivera and Jeter be the only two. Don't let anyone else do it. It's honoring the most impressive modern dynasty in sports history. Instead, this person, whoever it was, I really, really hope we find out soon, decided to make yesterday all about him or her. He or she wants the attention. And, well, she's getting it. This isn't some troll on the internet that's just, desperate for attention. No, this person affected baseball history. It does mean something to go in unanimously. That was a debate that I heard last year when Mariano was going in unanimously. Oh, it really doesn't mean anything, it's just a piece of trivia. No, it does mean something. It means that you were the best player in baseball history. It means you were better than Griffey, Seaver, Ryan, Maddox, whoever. Congratulations, buddy. You now have incurred the wrath of thousands upon thousands of Yankees fans. And baseball writers with a brain. I hope you're happy. Moving on now to Larry Walker. And I knew that Larry Walker was going to get in. I did say it yesterday. He did barely get in, though. He needed 298 votes. He got 304. Look, Larry Walker had a very good career. He does have some bold type. He does have an MVP. And when you look at peak years, he was dominant for an extended period of time. But that's not how the Hall of Fame should be. The Hall of Fame should be, for players of this era, all about the total body of work. And Larry Walker, in his career, only has 2,160 hits, 383 home runs. Those are not Hall of Fame numbers. He's not a Hall of Famer. The sabermetric darling. His WAR is high because he was a great fielder. That's fine, but Gold Gloves shouldn't get you into the Hall of Fame. It helps, but it shouldn't solely get you in. There is no reason why Larry Walker should have gotten into the Hall of Fame. None whatsoever. There are actually people that have made the argument that Larry Walker was a better player than Derek Jeter. If you need me to tell you how stupid that is, then you should not be listening to this show. This show is above you. I highly doubt that Walker would tell you he had a better career than Jeter. If you went to Montreal or Colorado, none of them would tell you that Walker had a better career than Jeter. It's why these sabermetric stats don't work. I don't give a damn what Walker and Jeter's WAR is or their JAWS is. Derek Jeter had an infinitely better career than Larry Walker. Speaking of Colorado, I'm not excluding Walker solely because he played for the Rockies. They're part of Major League Baseball. If we really think that it's affecting play that much, then let's move the Rockies. That's not the argument I want to make. Do I think that it helped inflate Walker's numbers? Yes. There's no question that it did. There's no question that it inflated Helton's numbers. It inflates Arenado's numbers. It inflates every Rocky's numbers. And look, we do need to take it with a grain of salt. Larry Walker at Coors Field, when he was playing with the Rockies, hit .384 with 154 homers and 520 ribbies to go along with 812 hits. In 14 less games, Larry Walker, when he was playing on the road as a member of the Rockies, hit .280 with 104 home runs, 328 RBIs, and 549 hits. The drop-off should not be that much with just a 14-game difference. And if I were to do that same exercise for Todd Helton, Nolan Arenado, Galarraga, whoever, it would be very similar. We do need to take those stats with a grain of salt. We just do. It's part of the reason why I don't think Todd Helton's a Hall of Famer. You look at his home and away splits. His away splits are just too bad to put him into the Hall of Fame. Coors Field helped him too much. Look, congratulations to Walker. Obviously, I'm in the minority here. From all accounts, he's a really nice guy. I mean, he did an interview in a SpongeBob shirt. He gets points in my book for that. But he's just not a Hall of Famer. It's just that simple. The total body of work isn't there. I don't think it's that hard to see that. Now, here's what my ballot would have been. I'm voting for 9 guys here. Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Derek Jeter, Andy Pettitte, Manny Ramirez, Curt Schilling, Gary Sheffield, Sammy Sosa, and Omar Vizquel. I have no problem putting in the steroid guys. None. We don't know how much the steroids really helped. Did they inflate their numbers? Absolutely. But you can't tell me without the steroids that they're not Hall of Famers. Barry Bonds was the best outfielder of his era before the steroids. Same thing with Roger Clemens in terms of pitching. Sammy Sosa is the only player in baseball history to hit at least 60 home runs in 3 different seasons. And in none of those years did he lead the league in homers. Now, if you want to tell me put Bonds and Clemens in, but not guys like Sosa, McGuire, and Palmeiro, no. I don't like that. That's unfair to the guys who you're leaving off. Why are you just picking and choosing which guys from the steroid era you put in? That's wrong. If you're going to put one in, you have to put them all in. Your rationale should be, if you cheated, it doesn't matter how good you were, you don't get a vote. And it's a fair argument. I respect it. It's an argument that we're going to have 25 or 30 years from now, when we're looking at guys like Altuve, Bregman, and Correa. But we already have cheaters in the Hall of Fame. Gaylord Perry threw a spitball. Whitey Ford would rough up the baseball. We have guys who didn't necessarily play by the rules in the Hall of Fame. It's not the Boy Scout Hall of Fame. It's the Baseball Hall of Fame. We're looking at their baseball careers. And when you look at the leaderboards for home runs and wins and strikeouts, how can you leave those guys out? The Baseball Hall of Fame is incomplete. It's bad enough that it doesn't have the hits leader in. The fact that it doesn't have the home run leader in is reprehensible. Now, next year, there's no one good coming up in their first year of eligibility. The best candidate is A.J. Burnett. A.J. Burnett is not a Hall of Famer. He may get a few votes, but he'll be lucky to crack 5%. If they don't get in next year, then they're going to need to wait a long time. Andy Pettitte, I understand why he's not in. He doesn't have great regular season numbers. Only 256 wins, only 2,448 strikeouts. Those are borderline Hall of Fame numbers. But where he's pushed over the edge to me is that he is one of the greatest pitchers in postseason history. This guy has the most wins in postseason history, has started the most games in postseason history, and has pitched the most innings in postseason history. There is no one who you wanted on the mound more when your team needed a win than Andy Pettitte. Maybe Bumgarner. Maybe Tanaka. No, I take that back. Pettitte's better than Tanaka in the clutch. Maybe Bumgarner, maybe Christy Mathewson, that's it. It's a very, very short list. Does the HGH scandal affect him? Maybe a little bit. It doesn't to me. He didn't use it to improve performance. He used it to come back from an injury quicker. I think that's commendable. I think that's an acceptable use of HGH. If you want to have a zero tolerance policy, then fine. But leave everyone out then. There were a lot of people who were voting for Bonds and Clemens, but not Sosa, not Pettitte, not Sheffield. And that's wrong. I don't think the HGH thing is keeping Pettitte out of the Hall of Fame. I think it's his borderline regular season numbers. But in my opinion, the fact that he's number one on so many postseason categories, plus his 5 World Series rings, pushes him over the edge. And I got news for you. Madison Bumgarner's a Hall of Famer too. Curt Schilling really upsets me. And I'm a Yankees fan. I despise Curt Schilling with a burning passion. He killed my team in 2001, and he killed my team in 2004. But this guy is by far and away a Hall of Famer. This guy had nothing to do with steroids. He has 3,116 strikeouts. We're going to keep someone who's in the 3,000 strikeout club out of the Hall of Fame because we don't like their political views? That's not what the Hall of Fame is for! But you know what? Don't vote for him for public office! That's fine! We're looking at their careers on the diamond! And this guy had over 3,100 strikeouts! How is he not in the Hall of Fame? Jim Bunning was a Republican senator from Kentucky. He's in the Hall of Fame. Happy Chandler, Democrat governor, also from Kentucky. He's in the Hall of Fame. You can't pick and choose. It is an abject disgrace that Curt Schilling is not in. It's okay if you don't like him. No one's asking you to have lunch with him. We're asking you to unbiasedly evaluate his baseball career. And that is what I have done here. And there is no question that anyone else who did that would see that he is a Hall of Famer. At least he's probably going to get in next year. He got 70% of the vote this year. Next year he's going to get a big jump. So that's something that we can be happy about. Omar Vizquel is interesting. He steered clear of the steroid scandal, and he put together a great career. He was the best fielding shortstop of his era. He has over 2,800 hits. In my eyes, that's a Hall of Famer. I understand why people are keeping him out, though. There's no bull type. He was not the most dominant shortstop of his era. That's A-Rod, Jeter, Nomar, guys like that. But again, we have to look at total body of work. The Hall of Fame is not just for peak years. The Hall of Fame is evaluating their career as a whole. If it's the Hall of Fame from just, 1992 to, 2006, I'm looking at Vizquel's stats now. Yeah, he's probably not a Hall of Famer. But when you look at the total body of work, he's a Hall of Famer. He's a little borderline. I understand why people are voting against him. I can't fault the people who are voting against him. They have legitimate arguments against him. But Vizquel gets my vote. Alright, that's enough Hall of Faming. It's time to move on to the other baseball story. The Braves locking up Marcell Ozuna. And I love this move for the Braves. They did this with Josh Donaldson last year, locking a guy up for 1 year for an obscene amount of money. $18 million for 1 year. That's incredible. Nothing short of incredible. I'm a big Ozuna fan. I always liked him. He's really, really clutch with runners in scoring position. He had 29 homers last year to go along with 89 RBIs. I understand that his batting average took a step back, but he's never done that before. I think he'll right the ship in terms of his batting average, and if he sacrifices a little bit of power but can keep up the RBIs, I have no problem with that at all. I've seen some people questioning where he's gonna play. In my opinion, it's pretty obvious. Ozuna is gonna be in left. They're gonna have Acuna in center and Markakis in right, with Inciarte and Duvall coming off the bench. I don't understand how people can get confused with that. I think this is a no-brainer for the Braves. In fact, I'm even going to say that they're going to make the NLCS this year. Not based solely on this signing, but when you add Ozuna to a core that includes Freddie Freeman, Ozzie Albies, Acuna, Markakis, Dansby Swanson, Mike Soroka, Julio Teheran, guys like that, that's a great team. And they're going to be a tough matchup for the Dodgers there. They really are. On to basketball now, and the pending return of Zion Williamson. I am really, really excited to watch this kid play. It's been way too long since we've seen him on a basketball court. I just hate injuries, man. I mean, name one good thing that happens from an injury. I understand that it's part of the game. There's nothing you can do about it. Fine. But it's just so upsetting to me to see a guy like Zion Williamson out for so long. I was really looking forward to watching him play a lot. I'm going to get to see him tonight against a Spurs team that's been struggling. They're still in the playoff race. They're fighting for that 8 seed. I do think they're going to eventually overtake the Grizzlies. But this is a Spurs team that has not been as dominant as they once were. Gone are the days of Duncan, Parker, and Ginobili. We're living in the era of DeRozan, Aldridge, and Forbes. That's pretty scary if you're a Spurs fan. It's going to be really interesting to see how Pop tries to neutralize Zion. This guy is the best athlete to enter the NBA since maybe Kevin Durant. He was the best can't-miss prospect in NBA draft history since Anthony Davis. It's not a stretch to say that Zion can drop 17, 18 points. I think a reasonable expectation is about 13 points, let's say 7 rebounds, and 5 assists. Let's say that. Don't hold me to it too much, but I think that's a fair expectation for a rookie's first game coming back from injury. As for how the Pelicans are going to look to integrate him into the offense, I have absolutely no idea. This Pelicans team really isn't a great fit for Zion. The thing that I don't like about it is he's playing with 2 really good passers in Lonzo Ball and Jrue Holiday. They do a lot of what Zion does. Now, Zion is a far superior athlete to them, but the thing that makes Zion so special is his vision. He has Nikola Jokic-like passing, and that doesn't work with guys like Lonzo and Holiday. I'm going to be very, very curious to see how he fits in their offense. It's not inconceivable to think that he could lead the Pelicans to a playoff run. They're only 3.5 games out of a playoff spot. Yes, they have to leapfrog 4 teams, but stranger things have happened. They have plenty of time to do it. And this is going to be a very, very interesting story to follow for a long, long time. The final story that I want to talk about is a rumor from Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk. He said that the Dolphins covet Joe Burrow. Now, this plays into a rumor that we've seen before. I didn't talk about it because I didn't believe it, and the Bengals flat out denied it, but with the Dolphins, it's different. The Dolphins, it makes sense. Now, you don't do it immediately. The thing with the Dolphins is they have 3 first-round picks this year. They have 5, 18, and 26. If you can get all 3 of those picks, if you're the Bengals, you have to consider it. It's not like their only hole is at quarterback. They need a lot of help. Their defense was atrocious. No safeties, no linebackers. They have good offensive playmakers with Mixon and Boyd and A.J. Green, assuming he comes back, Auden Tate too. But they need a lot of help defensively. And they're not the kind of team that's going to go out there and spend a bunch of money in free agency. They've always been a team that's focused on adding through the draft and keeping those guys around for a long time. Say what you want about the Bengals, but Mike Brown is an insanely loyal person, and I would love to play for him. He is loyal to a fault. Too much at times. He kept Marvin Lewis around for too long, and he kept Andy Dalton around for too long. If you're Brown, you need to at least consider trading down with the Dolphins. The only way that you do it is if you get all 3 of their first rounders. That's it. Nothing else. 5, 18, and 26 for 1. According to Jimmy Johnson's trade chart, the Bengals come out ahead there. And they're still in position to take a franchise quarterback. I actually think Tua would make a ton of sense for him. Assuming they traded down to 5, they can have Tua sit and wait until he's 100% ready. You can afford to start Dalton for a few games and then go with Tua. And 18 and 26, I mean, it's kind of funny. I was playing around with this last night, and I did not do this on purpose. This was completely by accident. But I think they can actually take 3 Alabama players. And I'm going to tell you why. At 5, they can take Tua. He's better than Justin Herbert. He would make so much sense to sit behind Andy Dalton. I just think it makes a bunch of sense. 18, they need a safety. Xavier McKinney is the second best safety in this draft. They're not going to get Grant Delpit. McKinney is a jack of all trades. He can play man, he can play zone. He's also deceptively strong. McKinney would make sense for him at 18. And at 26, I think they can take Terrell Davis. They need an edge rusher. Davis has a great frame. He's not afraid to get physical. He's an explosive athlete. I think that the combine will show that he has freakishly long arms. I don't think it's crazy for the Bengals to take 3 Alabama players. If they're the 3 best fits, why not? If you're the Bengals, you have to do your homework on this. You have to be confident, and I mean 100% confident, that Tua's going to come back from his injury and look like the Tua of old. And you need to have guys in mind that you want to target at 18 and 26. Don't just let the chips fall where they may. Have guys on your board that you covet. You may even be able to trade up for a guy like Delpit or Isaiah Simmons. With 18 and 26, I could very easily see you guys being able to trade up for those guys. And Burrow really isn't a can't-miss prospect. Burrow has a flaw. The big flaw is he's a one-year wonder. And he's going to a system that, whether it's the Bengals or the Dolphins, will be worse than the system he was in at LSU. He was in the perfect system in LSU. He's going to go to a worse system now. He's not going to look as good. Now, I still think that Burrow's going to be a great quarterback, but Burrow at LSU looked elite. He's not going to be elite in the pros. He's going to be great. And Tua can be great too. If you're the Bengals, do your homework on this. If the doctors give you their seal of approval, it makes a ton of sense. Tomorrow, I'm going to be breaking down what Zion does in his first NBA game. I'll also break down whatever other sports news there is. Until next time, I am Jacob Valk saying that I'm not interested in selling the team, but I don't know why.